Hello, this is Miss Dagenford. We're going to be looking at cell structures today, and this should hopefully be a review. And by the end of this video, you should have a good working knowledge of what all of these structures look like. And I'm going to give you, in some cases, a very short description of what they do. So we're going to start with this large purple structure with the bracket, and the bracket is indicating the fact that this goes all the way around. This is the large purple nucleus. And the nucleus, you may have learned in previous classes that this is the control center. And what that really means is that this is going to have all of the DNA in the form of chromosomes within that structure. And these chromosomes are spread out in long, thin threads. And this name that they give these threads is the chromatin. And the chromatin just simply refers to the chromosomes, but that's what we call that. And so the nucleus contains the chromatin. Over here on the left is the line to label the chromatin. So we have the fact that the chromatin is in the nucleus. And over here, it's just pointing to what it looks like. Now, your picture just kind of shows it as this fuzzy stuff, but in reality, we have these really long, thin threads of the DNA and the chromosomes that are all packaged tightly. And you can imagine if we keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this, that's going to appear rather fuzzy. And that's where they're getting that. What else is in the nucleus? Well, this dark blue center is called the nucleolus. And we'll talk more about what it does tomorrow. And then the line that we're seeing, let me outline that in red. This outer part of the nucleus, that is the membrane surrounding it, but it's so unique that it's given its own name. It's called the nuclear envelope. And so this is the surrounding of the nucleus, and it's pretty unique. And so that's why they just don't say the nuclear membrane. Some books still use that, and if you said it, it would be technically correct. All right, well, let's go through, and I'm going to do it in a very unique order, and you'll see why I do this tomorrow. So we left off with a nucleolus and nuclear envelope. Over on the right are all of these little red dots. Let me show you, just in case it's hard to see. So all of these little red dots right here. Each one of these red dots is a structure called the ribosome. And in my picture, I've shown multiple arrows because you can see there are lots of them. So these ribosomes do one thing and one thing only. They make proteins, and they make proteins from amino acids. So that's a nice connecting point to our previous chapter. Along with a ribosome is this rather large structure in blue. Now, the blue is quite extensive. It's this huge network. So everything that I'm just showing in red right here is simply the same thing. I just wanted to point it out to you. Let me clean that up now. So that is going to be what it's called the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now that's a bit of a mouthful. So sometimes we just call this the ER. And if you said that, anybody in biology would know what you're talking about, the rough ER. Now it's called rough because under the microscope you see these little bumps, and the little bumps are the ribosomes. So the ribosomes are on the surface. And the other thing you need to understand is that the rough ER is going to take the proteins that the ribosomes make, and they're going to modify it. You're going to modify the proteins And so you're going to add things to the protein, kind of like the little pop beads I had in class. So you have the proteins, you're going to add some things to it. You might change the shape a little bit. Just like in an assembly line of teddy bears, you might add the bows and the clothing and the little boots for the teddy bears. You're going to take a protein and add things to it. Maybe you're going to add some sugars, maybe you're going to add a lipid, but you're going to modify it. All right, so if we go to the next step, we're going to go to this green structure, and it does look annoyingly similar, but the green structure, which is called the Golgi apparatus or Golgi body, either one is acceptable. The Golgi apparatus kind of almost looks like it's been smushed in the middle. And the other thing that's very characteristic is you see these bulges on the outside of it. It looks like it's like a lava lamp, and it's bulging out. And what you can almost notice is this part right here would pinch in, and then you'd have this little sac of membrane. You can see that happening right here as it's about to pinch off. Now, this Golgi apparatus is going to be involved in this whole assembly line of protein making. So the Golgi apparatus is going to finish modifying your proteins, and then it's also going to serve as a packaging. So it packages and ships those proteins. So to some degree, you can think of this as like a UPS or a FedEx or like the U.S. mail. It's gonna deliver. It's going to deliver those proteins. Now, what we want to look at tomorrow is what is the big deal about all of these things. So real quickly, let's take a look at what we've done. We've done ribosomes, which make the proteins, rough ER, which modifies the proteins, and then we have the Golgi apparatus that finishes them and then packages those ships. So this is pretty interesting. We've got all of these different organelles that are part of this protein factory. All right, well, if we scooch over here to the left, we have another blue structure, but notice there are no ribosomes. So we call this the smooth ER, endoplasmic reticulum. And because it doesn't have ribosomes on the surface, that's a big clue that it's not involved in protein making. So there are no ribosomes. What it does is it helps make lipids. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. We'll unpack it, but just for now, you just need to know that it makes lipids. Now, all of these structures are part of this internal goo of the cell. Technical word that. So the next arrow is just pointing to this inner part. This is the cytoplasm. So what that arrow is really kind of indicating is all of this section in between the nucleus and the membrane. And so all of this is the cytoplasm. So let me go ahead and get that off. So that's what that arrow is pointing to. All right, well, let's continue on and just do some of the more miscellaneous structures. Well, we have over here, we have a lysosome. And think of the word Lysol, like you might spray Lysol to kill germs. Well, that word lyse means to break. And so the lysosome is going to contain digestive enzymes. And this little structure is going to go around and remove old organelles or consume things that the cell has eaten. Now, this one you might remember. This is the mitochondria. So all of these little orange guys around the cell, that's the mitochondria. And a lot of students like to remember mighty mitochondria because this is what produces the energy for the cell. It's a power plant. Some people like to call it the powerhouse of the cell. What's a power plant? So what it does is it's going to take glucose and convert it to a molecule that we're going to learn about in a few weeks called ATP. What I like to say is that glucose is similar to a $500 bill. ATP is like a $1 bill. And so just like you wouldn't go into a 7-Eleven and order and get a big gulp with $500 bill, a cell can't really use glucose by itself. Even though it's very powerful, it's a lot of energy, it's not going to be able to use it just by itself. So the mitochondria is going to be there to break down the glucose into these usable chunks of energy called ATP. Animals have mitochondria, so do plant cells have mitochondria as well. All right, so next up would be these little orange guys right here, and these little orange guys are called centrioles. And these centrioles are going to be really instrumental in making the microtubules. So those are the little yellow molecules. And then if you notice the little yellow strings coming from it, those are the microtubules. And the microtubules are going to form what's called the cytoskeleton. That's going to be really important in holding the shape. Now, that's going to be it for this video. So your job is just simply to make sure you've got these in the notes. And tomorrow, what we're going to do is apply this, practice this, and then we'll finish up with some of these things down here. But for right now, that's more than we need to know. So thank you and have a nice night.